Good morning. Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a really interesting recipe for panfish chowder. It's something I wanted to do for a long time, and I finally kind of pulled it all together. So I hope you stay with me. As usual, I will walk you through all the steps, and then I'll put the entire recipe, which is very simple, in the recipe below. This is a recipe that I've wanted to do for a long time. I've carried this recipe around in my menu box for a long time. It says Field and Stream, May of 2005. And while I'm not a big fan of exact ingredients, this one was just a little bit too vague for me. It says just saute diced onions, celery, carrots, and potatoes in bacon grease. Add water or fish stock to cover and simmer for half an hour or so. Then add some cubed panfish fillets, diced bacon, and as much half and half as your heart will allow. Simmer for another 5 minutes and find a big chair and a big spoon. Sounds good, but I needed something a little bit more structured. All the recipes that I found were very similar and very simple, so we'll walk through them together. Crappie season and bream season are a big deal at my house. I love catching them. I love eating them. 99.9% of the time we just fry them, and there's nothing left over a month after the season's over. Somehow one bag of 8 bream made it through the winter. It was in a different freezer. So that's what we're going to be using today. Some people talk about cutting the fish in chunks. This bream, bream fillets are pretty thin and small, so I'm just going to use the whole fillet. And there are a couple of other modifications that I'll talk about as we go through it. So let me get everything prepped and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, I've got everything prepped. And as you can see, the sun came out, really bright day, so I've had to move around to this side of the table, and I apologize if it's a bit dark. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this recipe, my modifications, and my steps going forward. I looked up several recipes online, and it's pretty funny. 2 of them on 2 different websites were the exact same recipe. I ended up printing the one that was on the Taste of Home site because I've printed the recipes before and it's easy to do, basically. I was going to tell you about some of the modifications I made. I really wanted to stick to the recipe today, but that's not one of my strong points. Things like, it talks about 2/3 of a cup of chopped onion. Well, I used 1 medium-sized onion and had about 1/4 of the onion left after 2/3 of a cup, so I just put the whole thing in. I peeled the potatoes, and that was hard for me to do because I really like potato skins, but I'm going to do it their way. That's a lot of potatoes. I'm anxious to see how this comes out because that's all of the onions and celery that I'm using. Everything else I pretty much stuck to the book. I'm trying to figure out how to film this next part. You guys know how to fry bacon. You know how to saute onions and celery, so I may just show you the end product. I'm going to start out in my cast iron skillet because that's what I really like to fry bacon and saute in, and then I'm going to move over to this stock pot to mix up everything in the end. So I hope you're staying with me, and I'll just, like I said, show you the end of each one of these steps. My bacon's fried, and I've sauteed my onions and celery. And now I'm ready to add everything to the soup pot. So I'm going to add 2 cups of water, and all this is in the description below. The potatoes, carrots, I called for 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I figure that's about 2 squirts. And then my onions, and celery. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this together. I'm going to bring it to a boil, and then I'm going to turn it down and let it simmer for about 30 minutes. After that, we'll add the fish and the bacon, and then at the very end we're going to add the half and half. So I'll be back. Everything's been simmering for about 30 minutes and the potatoes are really soft, so I'm going to go on to the next step. I did forget to tell you in the last step that I added all the seasonings in here with the potatoes and the carrots. So there is my bacon. I promise I didn't touch. And then my brim, I've got 8 big brims, so 16 fillets. And as I told you, one thing I read said cut them in half. Another said they're so thin, just don't worry about it. So I'm going to choose not to worry about it. But I'm going to stir this in, simmer for another 5 minutes, and then we'll add the cream. Okay, I've stirred my fish in here, and I told you I was going to try to stick with the recipe, but I'm just having a hard time with it. There's not enough liquid in here to cover all the fish, so I'm going to add just a splash of milk. And then I'll wait and add the cream after this is simmered for a while. So sorry about that. I really tried to behave and stick to the recipe. Okay, I'm way off script now. When I added the milk, everything cooled off so much that the fish stopped cooking. So I had to bring it back up to heat with the milk, and then I let it simmer for a few minutes until the fish started just falling apart. That's where we are now. So here is half a cup of half and half. I'm going to stir this up, bring it back to heat, and then we're done, so we'll have a taste testing. So see you in a minute. Here's the final product, and initially it was just okay. It was just a little bit bland. So I went back and added some more garlic powder, salt, pepper, and dill, and it made a big difference. I would definitely do this again, and it's perfect for just what I had, a bag of fish that was left over from last season. So I hope you'll try it. Sorry about getting off script, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. If you like it, please try it. And even more importantly, tell me what you think, tell me what you changed, what spices that you added. All of that is really, really helpful. So please add a comment below the video. That's all for now. Thank you very much for staying with me if you made it this far. I really appreciate it. And take care, and I'll see you in about a week or two.